have you faced any kind of judgment or assumptions about your struggles because of your background?
Only rich people have the problem of depression.
What helped you to overcome those obstacles?
I just stopped eating. I told my parents that I'm not eating. We need to do something about this. It wasn't necessarily something hopeful that got me to get out of it. It was probably just...
If you had to name a ladder in your life, what or who would it be?
Popo and I, my husband and I, figured out is that when he's exhausted, I can be having a bad day. He doesn't have to be there for me every single time.
You know, they say that something begins at home, the charity begins at home, and you've started at a very core level.
I think the fact that my dad went on the internet and said, I find therapy very helpful and
Yes,
I highly recommend it.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I should have done that on the first day.
Mental health is a person's emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It's an essential part of health and well-being and is just as important as physical health. Mental health is more than just the absence of mental disorders, and it can vary from person to person. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the privilege of welcoming a remarkable individual whose journey in mental health embodies resilience, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to mental health advocacy. Please join me in welcoming Ira Khan. Ira has courageously confronted the snakes of mental health challenges, transforming her personal experiences into ladders of hope for countless others. In 2021, she founded the Agatsu Foundation, a pioneering community center in Mumbai dedicated to providing a judgment-free space for mental well-being. Ira's openness about her own struggles has been instrumental in challenging societal stigmas surrounding mental health. She has shared her journey publicly, highlighting the importance of seeking help and building supportive ecosystems. In addition to her work with Agatsu, Ira has engaged in conversations alongside her father, actor Amir Khan, discussing the transformative impact of therapy and the significance of family support in mental health journeys. These discussions have further contributed to normalizing therapy and mental health conversations in India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the brave and beautiful Ira Khan in the Snakes and Ladders show today. I know that you've had a long journey in this space of mental health. And today in this episode of the Snakes and Ladders show, we would like to have some interesting conversations with you, gain insights from you and your experiences. And I'm sure that our audience today of the Snakes and Ladders show will get to know about your journey and how you navigated through that.
Sure.
So are we ready for the first segment, Ira?
Yes.
Okay. So Ira, I think at the very beginning, I would want to know, and the audience would like to know, that how did you first realize that you were experiencing depression?
I think that I knew that something was not okay because I was crying a lot and not being able to get out of bed. And my normal response to things was not crying. So, sometimes people get frustrated and then they have tears, or that's a way in which they respond to stress. But my response to stress had never been tears before this. So it was very abnormal that I was crying. And I was crying for, I didn't know what reason. And I was crying for 8 hours. So I knew something was off. I didn't term it as depression. And I tried to deal with it on my own, ignore it. Actually, when I say all that, it doesn't feel very accurate, because actually at that point I just had no thoughts. So I didn't even try to not do anything about it. I was just blank.
Okay.
There was no thought of doing something about it or not doing something about it. It was kind of just a blur existing. And then I stopped eating because it was too much effort to get up to get myself food. And that's sort of when I realized that I needed to tell someone about it. And so that's when I reached out to my parents.
Okay.
And Then I went to a psychiatrist, and then, I mean, it was a journey. So I think there was a build-up of symptoms that I was seeing, and then eventually I reached out for help.
Ira, how old were you when you first started experiencing these symptoms?
18,
Okay, that's quite young.
and I think I asked for help in 2018, so I would have been 20.
Okay. And were there specific moments in that journey which made it undeniable for you? Any of these symptoms that you felt?
Undeniable. Looking back, or because the thing is that I've been experiencing symptoms and going through this since 18, and my perspective on them has changed greatly over the past many years. And depends on which day you ask me. And how stigmatizing I'm feeling towards my own mental health on that day, my answer will change. So, are you asking me objectively which parts of those were undeniably symptoms, or emotionally speaking, in
I,
that moment?
I think emotional part. That is what we would like to know.
In that moment or right now, looking back? Hindsight, no hindsight.
I think with hindsight, when you look back, were there moments when you just didn't feel like that you were actually going through, those phases, or you didn't want to talk about it?
I have not understood your question. So, you want me to, in hindsight, tell you when were the times where I cannot deny that I was going through something?
Uh, I would like to know very much, now that I'm just a little curious to dig a little deeper into your journey, that when you started experiencing these symptoms and you felt pretty much, uncomfortable, and of course, you knew that there's something that's happening, you were probably trying to navigate and figure out what was happening to
Yeah.
you. And when you realized probably that, yes, it is depression that you're going through, were there moments when you felt that you would like to deny that?
Um, Consciously, no, because I have, like, my aunt is a therapist, and so I've grown up with the idea of mental health being a thing, and so consciously I didn't try and deny it. But there was a big part of me that would try and argue that it makes no sense for me to feel depressed, and because of all the privilege that I have, and because as I went through my journey, I learned a lot of things that one could say I had a hand to play in terms of how I got here.
Okay.
And so that would make me blame myself for where I'm at. And it's really complicated to explain because it's a spectrum of when distress becomes disorder, and when it reaches a point where there are symptoms that you are no longer being able to affect,
Yeah.
versus decisions that you may have made earlier on in life without necessarily understanding the consequences of them, which gradually build up to a point, plus random external factors.
Yes.
It's complicated, but there was a lot in my mind that made me blame myself for what was
Okay.
happening.
Okay.
And so, in that sense, there was the denying myself the right to have it, or the right to get help for it. But I didn't ever consciously deny the depression.
Okay. So, Ira, my experience, or the narratives that I have read about when people go through mental health disorders, initially I think they do take time to identify that, and in the course of the show that we are going to be talking about today, I think one of the questions that I really want to ask you is that you've spoken openly about your struggles, with mental health. So, what have been the biggest snakes that you have faced in that journey while you were coping up with depression, and how did that impact your personal and professional life?
Um, I think the depression itself, you could say, is a very big snake. And I think the more I'm working in this space, the more I'm realizing that you need to separate distress from disorder, not because one is more important than the other, but the way in which you deal with one is different from the other. And so I think one thing for me to say is that I can call my inability to express myself a snake, or I can say that there's a lack of understanding of the mental health, or all of those. I can tell you that those are also snakes. But to also realize that isolating myself is a symptom of my depression,
Okay.
and low confidence is a symptom of my depression. So, yes, there is less awareness about mental health, but I didn't reach out, not because I didn't want to reach out, not because I didn't have a supportive family to reach out to, but because one of my symptoms is that I will isolate further in fear of being hurt or whatever it is. So I think to realize that, to really understand how the symptoms of anyone's disorder are snakes in and of themselves in the process of getting better
Okay.
would be one of the things. Then it's just the fear of the depression itself, because once you've experienced that, the fear of when will it end, how will it ever come back,
Yeah.
is another thing. And I also have read this really interesting analogy. There's a book called The Noonday Demon. I have not read the entire book. I've only read the first 20 pages.
Okay.
But it's written by someone who's lived through depression, and he's trying to explain to you, articulate to you his experience. And he says it's like a parasite, no, like a creeper. So on a tree, when you have these, what are they called? Those plants,
Yes.
the
Yes.
creeper plants,
Exactly.
and they sort of suck the nutrition from the tree itself. So if you look at depression as that creeper, even once the creeper has come off, you still need to rebuild that tree. It's not that the creeper came off the tree and now the tree is fine. The creeper sucked some nourishment from the tree
Yes.
in and of itself. And so you have to sort of also rebuild things that you lost. Because there are physical and physiological aspects of mental illnesses, and then there are the purely subjective ones as well. And I had trouble concentrating and focusing, and my cognitive abilities decreased because of my depression, which means I would not do as well at planning things, or doing completing projects, or fulfilling commitments, which means I would do badly at something, which means now I think I'm not very good at doing this thing. And as I keep failing at the thing because of my symptoms, I start to think that I'm not very good at something. Now, even say I don't have depressive symptoms anymore, I'm on treatment, I'm on my recovery journey, I no longer have faith in my ability to do certain things. So now I have to rebuild that whole process. I'm afraid to take chances. I feel like I need to catch up on what I've missed out. So I want to get there faster, but I'm still recovering. So I'm trying to take a really big leap when actually I can only take a small step. And it's fine if I took that small step. If I kept taking those small steps, I'll still reach that leap. But because I want to make up for lost time, because the world is moving on and I
Yeah.
feel FOMO and I haven't hung out with my friends in so long, and I've been isolating myself in bed for 6 months, and I've missed all my friends' birthdays and fun things, and now I have to catch up for everything. I'm going to try and take a really big leap, and then I'm going to fall down on my face, and then I'm going to be like, it's your fault, and then I'm not going to be able to try the next thing, and I'm going to keep myself stuck in that loop. So there are many subjective experiences that also get entangled with this whole thing. And so there is depression in my disorder in itself. There is my fear of it that I developed. There is the fact that different mental illnesses within different people also manifest differently. So my depression might be different from someone else's depression.
True.
Mine is episodic or cyclic, so it keeps coming back. I didn't realize that until a certain point, because it's not possible for the psychiatrist to know that until
Correct.
they see you
Yes.
experience it, right? Because
Yes.
there is no like some test that you can do and say, oh, this is what this one's going to be like. So people also don't realize that the clinician will also, with you, discover the manifestation of your disorder or your disease. And so I kept thinking that I'm failing and I'm becoming depressed, or I'm not being able to make it stop happening.
Yeah.
Versus realizing that the nature of it is something that is cyclic, and so it will keep coming back. I can get better and better at managing it. I can start noticing it sooner, all of those things, but it's going to come back. So it's not a failure on me every time I have another episode, which was a big change in perspective in and of itself. Because otherwise it's like you're not learning. This happens to you every time and you still haven't learned from it. You should have learned from it by now. There's that. Then there's the fact that people don't understand mental illnesses, which affects the way in which people can support me. But it also means that I've never been taught how to articulate this. So I can't even help you support me because I don't know what to tell you. Snakes. I don't know. Social pressure of success and pleasing your parents and that stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And being there, like as you said, that you didn't want to miss out on a lot of things that's happening in your life.
Progress.
Yes, yes. You know what, Ira, I have also come to, read about certain narratives which talks about people can be highly functional individuals and yet suffer from severe depression, severe mental health disorder, where they're in a spree to achieve and they're in a spree to do a lot of things. But, in their core, in their deepest of, their inner self, they are fighting a very dark space, a very dark battle. So I think that definitely happens to many individuals. I'm sure, that's one of the snakes that we have been referring to. Now, my next question, Ira, is a little bit in the space of the women front, because as you know, this is a women elevation show. Now, of late, some of the survey reports that I've been kind of going back and referring to, where our nation, where women definitely form a very integral part of our society, we know that 39% of women in our country today suffers from some or the other mental health disorder. It may not be severe, but it can range from less to medium and to the severe mental health issues. And overall, there are about 75% of patients who suffer from mental health disorder are from the women category. Now, that number is very concerning, I think, to me as a woman, because sometimes women just don't want to talk about it. So my curiosity here, because you are doing a lot of work in the mental health space, is that do you think the stigma around mental health differs from women compared to men? Any kind of experience that you have had with this, maybe the kind of work that you're doing today, when you see the starking ratio of, women feel more stigmatized when they go through mental health disorder, they don't want to talk about it maybe more openly. Have you come across this, or what's your views on this?
So I don't know a lot of statistics, but I'm going to tell you based on what I've read and what I know so far. So India in general has very bad help seeking behavior. So men or women were very bad at asking for help. When you read the reports, you do see that women seem to be more susceptible to depression than men, but they haven't been able to tell whether that's because men ask for help less. So, for example, if there's tuberculosis and I test less people, I will have less people who have tuberculosis. But if I test more people, I may have more people who have tuberculosis. The number of people who actually had tuberculosis to begin with has not changed. So, more women seem to get diagnosed, but that may be because more women come to get diagnosed. That's one option. I have no stats for this, but I think that admitting to having a mental health problem is far more stigmatized for men than it is for women. So to admit that you feel suffering and pain for something that is intangible is more stigmatized when it comes to men. And so I think that it's a little tricky in the sense that now when you look at health or mental health, the thing everyone's talking about is to look at it from a biopsychosocial lens and not just a biochemical lens. So if you previously looked at any illness, you thought it was coming because of a biological and a chemical reason, and therefore, if that's how you understood the framework of health, your cures, your treatment, your medication, your solutions will also come from a biochemical framework because you think that's where the problem is, so that's where the answer will be. But if you start to look at it and you realize that it's a biopsychosocial situation, then your answers and your solutions and your cures also have to come from a biopsychosocial space. What does that mean? It means that tuberculosis isn't just because of the bacteria.
Yeah.
It's also because there is less nourishment, so your immunity is low. There is bad sanitation, so your immunity is low. It's not just the bacteria.
Whole lot of
right? There
reasons.
are various other things. Now put that in perspective of being a woman. Are there certain things that you don't get or get because you are a woman within the context that you live in? So in where you are, do you have access to sanitary pads? Are you allowed to go to school? Are you being able to have autonomy in what you wear, where you go, what you want, who you marry, etc.? Are you getting that support from your family but not getting that support from the slightly larger community, right? So there is various aspects of being a woman which could be causing more stress to your quality of life and your mental well-being, which would be the same for men, but whatever. What I mean to say is that when you're trying to figure it out, when you're thinking about it, when you're wondering what are the things that are affecting women, what are the things that are impacting women, take into account that it's not just that mental health is all of it, right? It's, am I being able to know who I am? Do I have a loving relationship with my parents. With my friends? When I feel like this is my purpose in life, am I being able to attempt to make those steps towards what I think my purpose in life is? All of those things is essentially what affects your mental health, plus some biological genetic components to it. But if you really look into it, even all of those genetic things are triggered off by something in the environment. So you may have the genes for mental illnesses in your family, but that doesn't mean that they will necessarily get activated. So you can have the genes, like you can have diabetes in your family and not get diabetes. You can have no diabetes in your family and still get diabetes.
True.
It's a whole host of things, right? So just because I have the genetic predisposition to something doesn't mean I'm going to get it. It still has to be triggered by things in the environment. And I think that when you look at all of that, I think it's a little difficult to do this whole ratioing thing because I feel like there are too many factors. But yeah, I think it's important to be aware of what they are, so that when an individual comes in, if they are female, then you take into account that this will be the things that affect their life for this specific individual who is female, and also of this economic background and
Background,
this
yeah.
social background,
Yes.
whatever their experience is. So I think it's important to understand these factors so that you can understand the context of that person to get where they're coming from. And
I couldn't have agreed more, and very well said, Ira, because I think in most of the cases, it has to be different from one person to another, because what, let's say, I'm going through, somebody else may go through a completely different situation in life from which the depression or the mental health disorder can stem. Now, Ira, what do you think are some of those internal conflicts that can affect someone's emotional well-being? Like, some of it that you may have felt also very closely while walking that path of healing, and that path of self-discovery and fighting the depression part. So, have there been moments where you felt that there are specific internal conflicts that triggers off, or that can impact someone's emotional health or well-being?
so many, so many. Um, okay, internal conflicts. One for me is that I need to be liked by everybody. So I'm a people pleaser.
Okay.
So I also can't get upset with you, because if I get upset with you, then you'll get upset with me for getting upset with you, and then you won't
Okay,
like me.
yeah, exactly,
Right.
vicious
So
cycle.
I can't be upset with my parents or my friends or my brother or anyone, because if I get upset with you, then you might leave me and go away.
Okay.
Because if I get upset with you, then you need to deal with that, the fact that I'm upset with you, which you might not be okay with. So you'll get angry and you'll leave. If I don't show my upsetness to you, you won't get upset with me for getting upset with you, and you won't leave me.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So then, so I cannot tolerate the fact that I love you and I'm angry with you in the same moment,
Very deep, that is.
because I am.
Yeah.
Right? Just because I'm upset with you doesn't mean I don't love you anymore. It just means I'm upset with you right now. That is just not tolerable at all. Highly unhelpful. Please get over it. I'm still working on it.
Okay. that's
I
that's
have not.
that's a definitely great tip for us, and I
Yeah,
can completely understand that
yeah.
it's a dilemma that most of us go through in our personal life and in our personal
And
relations.
in work as well, right? Suppose you
Yes.
start making friends with one of your colleagues. My God, how are you going to shout at them for not having done their job well?
Job. Yes. Yes.
Not shout. Nobody should shout. Just confront them. But whatever, it gets kind of tricky. So I think that was definitely something for me. It's going to sound very like Freud and all, but like I have very, I think that I've said this before, your relationship with your parents is the most complicated relationship that you have, because the intensity of emotions that you feel towards them is the highest. And for the first at least 18 years of your life, the proximity within which you live with them is also the most.
Very rightly said.
So if you chew loudly, it doesn't matter to me. I don't live with you every single day, but I live with my brother every single day. And if he chews loudly and it bothers me, then I don't.
Yeah.
I'm stuck in this environment. So apart from the emotional intensity that is in every parent-child relationship, whether they know it, don't know it, want it, don't want it, doesn't matter. It's there. They will make you cry the hardest, and they will make you laugh the loudest as well. And the fact that all parent-child relationships are also always taken for granted, so you never actively, mindfully put in effort into building a relationship with your parents, because it's just there. And that transition between when you're a child and you become an adult
Adult. Yes.
just doesn't happen.
Correct. Rightly
So
said.
when do I start seeing my parent as an adult who is allowed to make mistakes, and when do I start seeing my child as an adult who is no longer my child?
Yeah.
That transition doesn't happen.
Yes.
And so I think For me, reaching out to my parents, building a relationship with my parents has been a very big part of it, because I have such a strong need to please them as well. Um, Anything they say now has to, like, I will respond to it. Even if I consciously don't, I subconsciously will respond to it. It's very dangerous. It's a me problem. It's not a them problem. I need to fix that. Um, what else? Have been emotional conflicts. I think that I struggle with the privilege that I have. And so I keep feeling like I need to be a useful person in the world. And I don't want to assume, but I think that that could be similar to the pressure other people feel about success. So maybe other people, assuming other people feel the pressure for success in terms of I need to make, or what is the point of me having gotten so much if I don't give back? So I don't feel pressure to do well. I don't feel pressure to do well in school, to get good grades, to get a good job. But I feel pressure to make sure Agatsu has impact and helps people, and I'm a useful person for other reasons.
Get your point. Ira, I'm going to ask you a question which will be a bit more deep diving. Do you feel, and there is no again correct or wrong answer to it, because you belong to a luminary family, being the daughter of actor Amir Khan, and also your mom has definitely done a lot of work, in her space. Do you feel that pressure for you to, give back to the society, or kind of prove yourself? Is something that builds up more, I would say, pressure in the mental space, or that intensity more than probably someone who is going to be trying to prove himself or herself, not from maybe a film background or from a luminary background, that okay, they need to do it in their education space, in their office space, in their career space. Okay, so there is a different pressure there. But just if I put, I'm not doing an apple to apple comparison, but I'm just curious to know that some of your mental health journey that you've had, and some of the concerns or issues that you have faced, is also because you've really put yourself into that pressure point that okay, I need to do this because I'm so and so.
Um, I mean, so definitely being in a family where we're in the limelight has affected my mental health very much, because I mean, it's part of my life, and if it's part of my life, then it's going to affect me. It also causes many changes in your life that otherwise would not be there. So, in that sense, yeah, it has a lot of effect on you. I put it upon myself to feel guilty of my privilege. It's definitely something that I put myself in the spot for. For example, when I was starting Agatsu, I was like, okay, Ira, yes, you're starting something new. It's a relatively new field in India as well, but you're starting with a little more privilege than the average person, and a little more network and connections than the average person. Therefore, you must try and figure out what is the most efficient place and thing to do that is the best utilization of your resources and connections. And then you must make the biggest impact as quickly as possible. Because otherwise, what is the point of you starting it? Which is the worst idea on the planet.
Okay.
Because there is no way to tell that. A. B. I have no idea what the space is about at this point. I really need to just go there and work with people and talk to people and get to know what the mental health space is first, before trying to be like, okay, you have this, you should never try and make the biggest impact in the shortest amount of time possible. It's a silly thing. But I felt like it would be wasteful if I didn't do that,
Okay.
because of the connections I do have. Why am I not fighting for big policy change right now? so many people are being affected by so many things, and there are so many blaring gaps that are there that we all know about. I should be tackling those things and trying to fix those things, and I can't fix anything.
True that.
You
Yeah.
know, the policies are way bigger than one individual, and what one individual thinks. It's so complicated to make larger systemic changes because there's so many factors that you're not aware of. Even people who mean well will take a lot of time to make those system changes that affect people. And so I, yes, definitely put myself in the spotlight for in a place of pressure for those things.
Get it. Yeah.
Apart from that, I also felt like I had a lot of access to goodwill because of the goodwill that my family already has.
Yeah.
But it also meant that if I mess up even a little bit, it will
True.
all come crumbling down, and not only for me. So there's two sides of that. It's, yes, I can take advantage of the fact that people will trust me a little bit more, but then if I mess up, then they would very quickly change sides, and me messing up will have far more consequences than someone else messing up in the public perception of
Public
the
perception.
mistake.
Exactly. And that's where I think I asked you this question, and related to that, I definitely want to know that have you faced any kind of judgment or, assumptions about your struggles because of your background?
I don't read my comments on Instagram, and I'm
Yeah.
not on Twitter, so I have no idea. I'm sure there has been, but I just don't read about it. I know that when I posted in 2020, I said that I would read all my comments, and for those 3 posts, I did read every single comment. And in that one, I did get people telling me that only rich people have the problem of depression, and that I should go pray to God, go to the gym, do something, all of those things. Um, I wouldn't only call it judgment, I would also call it maybe, you're trying to say what you can say to someone. Also, I put it out there on a public platform, so people are allowed to
Yes.
say whatever
Yes.
they want to say. But in general, I don't read my comments because there's a lot of negativity and hate on the online space,
Yes.
and it's unregulated, and I'm sure it'll get me down. So there is no need to read it in the first place. I have enough other things getting me down. I don't need to read those things. It is sad. I miss some of the sweet things also that people say, but that's okay. My only comment, I have two things to say about that. One is that I can't really blame someone for looking at me and going, who's struggling with other things in their own lives
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not fully seeing. I mean, I do have the luxury of being like, okay, I don't have to finish school. I don't have to do a job where I earn money and I will still be fine. Whereas you have to go through the same struggle as me
Yes.
without the financial
Correct.
backing. So I'm sure you're mad at me. You have all the right in the world to be mad at me. It's not helpful, but I understand the feeling.
And you
But
can't control that
yeah,
as well as
yeah,
Ira,
exactly.
what
So
people are
like,
making out of it.
yeah,
Yes.
and also, I mean, I see why you would feel annoyed at your situation. So it's okay, like whatever. I won't read the comments. But just want to put it out there that more poor people have mental health illnesses than rich people. There's a very big correlation between poverty and depression.
Okay.
And if you go to any government psychiatric ward, there will be so many people from all parts of the social economic background, because government psych wards in India are free. So go there and you will see many, 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 many not rich, spoiled brat people who have mental health problems. And so it's not just a rich people problem.
So, Ira, you have mentioned in some of your interviews and in your work that, there was a time where you have struggled, obviously, to speak about your journey, about the space that you've been and how you've overcome it. My question to you is that what helped you to overcome those obstacles when you finally decided to fight back, to kind of start your healing process? What exactly encouraged you and motivated you?
Um, okay, so like I said in the beginning, it was a blur, right? So even part of the steps forward, the first few was still a blur, in the sense that I can't tell you right now, I didn't see something hopeful and strive towards it. I just stopped eating, and I knew that that's not a normal, healthy
Normal.
thing to do. So
Yes.
I told my parents that I'm not eating and we need to do something about this. Um, so it wasn't necessarily something hopeful that got me to get out of it. It was probably just my survival instinct. Um, and I think that obviously having professionals and doctors who I trusted was helpful. Having parents and family that I could talk to about it was extremely helpful. Um, and then I think, like I said, it goes up and down, and parts of my journey are blurred to me in the sense that things were happening and I was acting and responding, but I wasn't necessarily thinking, because part of my depressive episodes go in a lot of blankness. There is no
Correct.
articulation, which is part of the problem. A lot of my brain is so fogged up. There's just, I don't know. There is nothing beyond that. So
Yeah.
I don't actually know. I'm just lying there. And so, but I do know that I would get annoyed when I got slightly better, that this is a bit bizarre. It shouldn't have to be this hard. In the sense that I would gradually learn things that could have made it easier for me to deal with things, could have made me better at coping or managing or communicating. And I think very recently did I realize that this is hope that I was feeling. That because you can only get frustrated that it doesn't have to be this way if you think that there is a better way for it to be.
Yes.
Otherwise, you wouldn't think that. Otherwise, you'd
Correct.
just be angry in a this is it kind of way. But I was angry in a just doesn't have to be like this. That means I have hope that there is a better way for it to be, a way that is something that we can actually achieve. And so I think that getting the time and space to deal with my mental illness and process it and articulate it and sort of look at the rest of the world around it gave me the opportunity to be like, hey, if these things were slightly different, you know, from a education point of view, like from an upbringing point of
Point of
view,
view.
for everybody, like if parents had what were given some sort of a hey, what happens when you have a child, you know, and so from parents to teachers to kids to everybody. So I don't think there's any one particular, I don't think there's anyone to blame in society, but everybody in society could have been taught a bunch of things which we know. We all know it. Just want you to say that science and human civilization has figured out a lot of things that we just, as regular people, do not know. It is extremely frustrating. It takes 17 years for research findings to reach clinical practice. Half my life is gone before the person who figured out something useful will come to my professional who will use it on me. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Why are we not disseminating the things that we know are helpful and useful? And so I think, wow, what was the question? Hope, correct. When I discovered that there is things that we have figured out as a civilization, as a people,
Yes.
that there is hope, there is things that we can do, where for some reason not doing them, but they're there.
They're there. Yes. Those avenues are there,
Yes, they're there
existing.
to be done.
Yes.
We just have to tap into them and care more. If we all cared about our mental health, we'd do all of those things, and then we'd be happy people. It's
Absolutely.
really that simple.
Yeah, and also consider that mental health disorder is a real thing. It is something that is prevalent along with physical health issues. So, Ira, I want to know, out of your journey and experience that you have been kind of seeing first-hand cases through Agatsu Foundation, have you come across some common myths or misunderstanding about depression? Particularly, let's say where women are concerned, what are some of the common myths in depression, about depression that you may have heard, seen, or come across?
Um, Common myths about depression are that, I mean, some people think that you're being negative and that's why you become depressed. So if you have a negative outlook on life, then that's something that is going to lead you into
Lead you to?
depression,
Okay.
whereas it's the other way around. A symptom of depression is that you have a negative outlook. And so that. Myths about depression. I mean, there's so many. I don't know. I don't know whether you want just general myths. Um, it's a mood disorder that's caused by stress, and so it's not just a passing phase or any of those things. And I think when you say that, it's important to make sure that I'm talking about clinical depression as the pathological
Yeah.
disorder.
Correct.
And I think that's where people kind of get confused with the terminology. And the only reason it matters is is because the way in which you will address distress, depressive disorder, depressive symptoms, and disorder is just different. It's not about which is worse and which is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's important to distinguish between them. Um, I think, I know this is not what you asked me, but I think it's important to say that suicidal ideation is far more common than we realize it to be. I'm not saying attempts, but I'm saying ideation is far more common than we expect it to be. In that situation, women attempt more than men
Men. Okay.
do. So there is a clear distinction in terms of data for that. More women attempt than men, but more men die than women.
Okay. That's quite a scary,
Yeah,
synopsis or view of
yeah.
what happens in reality.
So, yeah, and I think Agatsu is a really interesting sample size or sample population or whatever you want to call it, because we're an in-person center in Bandra. At max, we can have maybe 90 people at one
One
time
time. Okay.
fit into that space. And so we have lots of peer supports. Peer support is when you and I have been through a similar experience, and we're going to share with the room
Okay.
everyone who has had the same experience. So we have grief peer support, we have a youth peer support, we have a new moms peer support, we have an LGBTQI A plus peer support. So everybody in that room has to have lived through that thing,
Correct.
and that's what peer support is. We get perspective and solidarity and things from people who've experienced similar things to us. We have to explain in less words what we're feeling, because it's more likely that they may understand what
Yeah.
we're going through. And our youth peer support is from 18 to 25. And we assumed that there would be lots of females and no men. They were only males. so many times our youth peer support had only young boys, and we were all like, oh, so sweet. They're all coming to talk about their emotions. It was so nice. But I think that when you create a space where they feel like they can share, they want to.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's interesting. We do have more women who come to the therapy clinic than men.
Men. Okay. That's a very interesting find, by the way.
So
Right?
yeah, we have more women who come than men. There's a huge disproportion between the number of women who are therapists versus men. There are very few male therapists in India.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, Ira, thank you for answering those questions. My last question to you in this next segment will be because, I think this is a battle which one cannot win without support of a group of, caregivers, whether it's from your family or in your friend circle or even professionals. That what challenges do you think that caregivers will face while supporting someone with depression?
So many. It's extremely frustrating to sit on the outside and watch someone you love struggle. You get very frustrated, which makes you lose your patience with them, which is not helpful for them. But it's not easy on you either
Yeah.
to just watch. A lot of times, so there are two bits. One, you might actually notice patterns and things that they're doing because you're outside and have an objective point of view. But there is no point in trying to tell them that, because until they don't figure it out themselves, it's not going to go anywhere, which makes it extremely irritating for you to just sit there and watch them in
Yeah.
pain. And the thing is, it's not helpful for you to push. It's not going to get you what you want. If what you want is for them to get better and do better and try and take control of their lives, then you telling them is not helping. So I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you want what you want to happen, then chill.
Chill. Yeah. Just don't try to
Don't push
preach
it.
and tell them or
Yeah.
push them. Yeah.
In that period, it's very important that you take care of your own mental health, because it can be very, even if they do lean on you, even if they do approach you and ask for help, it's very draining to take care of someone with a mental illness. I think from a me perspective, I realized that sometimes I was being emotionally manipulative towards the people around me unintentionally, because I was afraid of struggling for so long. I was afraid of feeling like I wouldn't be able to get up because I'd have a depressive episode, and so I used to get very tired and I used to lie in bed. So I would be worried that I would just drop because I would have a depressive episode. I'd curl into a fetal position and not be able to move. So after so long of not asking for help and struggling and being in that extremely exhausted place, even when I could do something, when I started to get better, I was afraid when people tried to push me, because I was like, no, don't push.
Don't push.
And
Yeah.
so even though I could push, I would back off or I would react or whatever it is. And if I start crying, how many times are you going to push me? Right? So I'm sort of emotionally manipulating you into being like, don't push me.
Got it.
When actually right now I might need a little bit of a push, and it might be helpful for a supportive, loving push at this moment in time. It might be good for me. But you don't know that, because I don't know that, and nobody taught you, and you
Yeah.
don't know how to find the line between today is
True.
not a day to push me and today is a day to push me. You're looking at cues from me. If I'm emotionally vulnerable, then I might emotionally manipulate you, even if I don't mean to emotionally manipulate you. So I think taking care of yourself as a caregiver is extremely important. Psychoeducating yourself to a certain degree about the disorder is very important. Because when you do self-care and you psychoeducate, you learn your boundaries. So something that Popo and I, my husband and I, figured out is that when he's exhausted, he's exhausted. I can be having a bad day, but that doesn't mean he needs to go take his time to resettle his head
Yeah.
if he needs to. And there will be days when I'm having a bad day where he can't be there for me, and that's fine. He doesn't have to be there for me every single time for every single bad day. That is why I'm not supposed to have one person to support me. I'm supposed to have 10 people to support me, so that at different points for different needs, I can go to different people and I am not depending entirely on one person the whole time. Just because I'm going through a mental health disorder doesn't mean you have to agree with everything that I say. You can very sweetly disagree with me. But to be able to find that line between being gentle and empathetic and supportive while still holding your boundary is something that you have to work on and get used to. And that whole conflict of I can't get mad at you and love you, and how can I let you cry and sit outside? Like, how can you not lean on me?
Yeah.
When you are struggling, I am meant to be that. It's okay. Sometimes I can cry on my own. If you don't find that balance, it's very hard to be a caregiver because you'll burn out very quickly, and then that's not helpful either. So
Yeah, I get your point.
I think it's difficult to support someone with a mental illness. It's, I would say, equally hard to be the caregiver of someone struggling with a mental illness. So yeah, please take care of yourself. If you are, take it damn seriously. Sorry, take it sincerely, don't take it seriously.
Seriously. I know you talk about it. Yes.
Go for caregivers peer supports, because you need a space to crib about your irritating sister, mother, father, brother, husband, wife, because they are irritating. It's true. It's not their fault. You're not blaming them for it, but it
Yeah.
is frustrating.
Frustrating.
And you need a place to be able to talk about that frustration, realize that you're not alone, realize that it is hard, and then go back to being able to be there for them.
Wow. Thank you, Ira. You answered so many questions in this next segment with such insights, with such experience that I'm sure, those who are right now treading this journey of healing from mental health issues, or let's say people like us, we do know tad bit better that how do we deal when certain situations like this arise. It can happen to me, it can happen to my loved one. But great insights from you, Ira. And now it's time for us to move to the ladder section of the show.
Yay.
And yay, we're going to throw some questions at you on that.
Okay.
So, Ira, now we step into the ladder section of the Snakes and Ladder show, and we are going to be delving into some more questions to understand which have been, or what has been, or who has been your biggest, supporters or your ladders in this journey. So, my question to you in this segment is that who or what has been the most reliable ladder when facing life's challenges? Number one. Who were the key people who stood by you? Number two. And how did they contribute to your healing?
There's so many.
Compacted into one question.
No,
Okay,
but there's so many
repeat.
people. No, I remember
Yeah.
the questions. Okay, most reliable ladder. When you go through something for 8 years, it's a little difficult to pick one.
But you have to name one now.
I have to name only one?
Yeah, and then the next segment were who were the key people who stood by you. You can name all of them.
Okay, most reliable ladder. Okay, we'll do ulta. So first the key people.
Yeah.
My therapist and my psychiatrist and my parents and my aunt and obviously Popeye, my husband. And then slowly, see, I did a smart thing.
Okay.
I expanded my support circle. So I didn't do this one person. I called everybody and I said, guys, I need help from everybody. So
Okay.
actually, I reject your question because no, you do not have one most supportive ladder.
Okay.
You have to have many supportive ladders. So I reached out to as many people as I could reach out to at as many times as I could reach out to, so that I could split and divide the support that I needed at different points. So lots of people supported me at different points. Starting from my family towards my friend circle, the professionals in my life, sometimes completely random people.
Okay.
So yeah, lots of people. Uh, I have to say that my husband has been the person I have spent most amount of time building and learning how to communicate with, to be able to reach a place where we're very good at supporting each other. And when I say that, I mean that from a point of view where he can take time off when he needs to. He can be upset with me, I can be upset with him. When I don't know how to explain what's going on, I'm able to tell him that I don't know how to explain it, and we sit together and try and figure out.
Wow. Okay.
Like I say, the words I'm saying right now are not correct, but I'm going to say them anyway, and then we will together figure out what I actually mean, because I'm not being able to find the words right now. And then he will do the same, because he's like, I'm going to say this thing and it's going to sound like I'm attacking you, but I'm not attacking you. I just don't know how else to say this. And then we sort of sit there and figure it out. So I think the person who has invested the most in my recovery journey has been my husband, in terms of trying to understand what I'm going through, being there for me, focusing on ensuring that I don't lose priority of taking care of myself, because it's a very continuous thing that has to be ongoing.
True.
So I guess in that sense, he would be the most reliable lad. Is very confusing, these words and all. Sure. I mean, I have no qualms in saying he is my most reliable ladder. Definitely right now, if I ever need, like if I'm having the worst day, talking to him always makes me feel better. So, very reliable ladder. People, lots of people. What is the third one?
Yeah, so the question was that the key people
Yeah.
who have supported you in your healing journey, and
The last part
yes, the
was,
last part, how did they contribute to
how
your
did they
healing? Like, even sitting and talking to you,
Yeah.
being there when you wanted them to be.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people want to be there for you, but there's too much going on in their own
Yeah.
lives, unintentionally. So we're all usually trying to do 10 different things. And we want to achieve those 10 different things. So then when I stop you and say, hey, listen, I'm not doing very well, you don't actually have the time and emotional bandwidth to stop and invest in hearing me and understanding
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Whereas Papa is the kind of person who had decided very early on in life, he likes 3 things and he does not put in any energy into anything extra. If you ask me to come for a movie and I don't really want to watch that movie, I'll still be like, yeah, okay. If he doesn't want to watch that movie, he'll just be like, no, I want to conserve my
Yeah,
energy on
okay,
things that I
okay.
actually want to do, rather than just doing things for the sake of doing them. I'm going to invest my time and energy in things that I actually actively want to do, which means he had the time to be like, okay, I can invest in understanding you and getting to know you. So if you look at a piece of bread, I'm a piece of bread with too little butter spread too thinly across it, whereas he's a piece of bread with adequate amount of butter spread properly on the bread.
Okay, okay.
And I think that is something that really, that is a way in which I was very supported, because if I need to explain to you what's going on, I need to have faith that you are trying to listen. Otherwise, it's too much energy for me to try and explain it to you, and
Correct.
then you're not going to be part of my support circle, because I have to help you
True, true.
help me. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to help me, because it's too bizarre and irrational for you to figure it out on your own. And so we need to together invest in this support circle journey. Otherwise, it won't work. So I think the emotional and time investment in building communication with whoever is in your support circle has
Correct.
been very important. Self-care, just stop, just be sincere about your mental health. It matters if you don't sleep well one night, because it's not just that one night. For me, it affects the next 3 days. So how does it matter? Let's go out. No, it matters a lot. I will wreck my next week if I go out. So I'm not going to. I think playing the long-term game versus the short-term game was a big thing. And what I really realized is that I really enjoy being a healthy person. I like sleeping on time and waking up early. It makes me feel good. So I'm no longer doing it to be healthy. I'm doing it because I enjoy doing it.
Wow. Okay.
And it does not make me a boring person. I swear I'm a super fun person, even though I sleep at 10 p.m.
And you wake up at what, 5 a.m.?
No, 7.
Okay.
I go to bed at 10. I don't fall asleep at 10. But I start winding down, and I've realized that the conventionally healthy things are conventionally healthy for a reason, because they're healthy,
Yeah.
and they make you feel better. So sleep properly, drink water, eat properly, and move your body. You have to.
Wow. So I think your husband Nupur will be swelling with pride once he
No,
hears
he
this
says
bit of
you go around
conversation.
telling everyone that I'm sorted and I'm not. I was like, keep quiet.
Okay, but this is again a good lesson for partners who are listening to this conversation between us, that how they can better support,
Yes.
their loved ones, and whether it's their wife, their husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, or their partners. I think it's really important to have that direct and authentic, relationship and that conversation. And I completely resonate with that, because and I'm going to give you my experience, Ira. I think when you grow in a marriage, okay, things shift very different. So there are times when I am sitting with my husband and he's continuously on the mobile, and I'm sure he's going to get very, irritated when he
Purple
hears this.
also is very
Yeah,
bad.
but sometimes I have to ask him for that time that,
Yeah,
look, I
yeah.
want to talk to you. Can you give me like 5 minutes? And then, let's keep this aside and let's have that conversation. So I think it's very important what
Papa
you
is
said.
also Instagram addict. Huh? I also have to be like, hello, put your phone down. I'm having a conversation.
So no Instagram, please, audience.
Yeah.
It's time for you to have some good conversations
Yeah.
and direct
100%.
ones if you want
Focus.
to navigate, and take you, and I think make use of that ladder in your life.
Yeah.
Very important. Great. So, Ira, I also would like to know from you that how important it is in having a strong support system or a structure for someone who's healing in the process. Like, how do you see that support, that foundation contributing to that healing journey of someone who's probably, just surviving that mental health issue, or, that depression. And so, how are you going to put it in your words?
I think it's by far the most important thing. As in, I'm on medication, and sure, I won't be functional without my medication, but only being on my medication will also not make me functional. I have to also do the other things that I'm doing. Otherwise, even on the medication, I won't be okay. And I think that support looks like a wide variety of things, which is something that people don't necessarily realize. That I need to have friends who distract me. I need to have friends who intellectually stimulate me.
True, true.
I need to have moments. I need to have all different kinds of stimulus that can be part of my support circle. So you don't always just have to sit with me while I cry. You can also drag me out for, I don't know, table tennis, whatever. And it's very important to have a holistic, well-rounded kind of a support circle, which is coming to you, like I said, like I keep saying, sincerely and not seriously. So little chunks throughout. Because what happens is sometimes when someone calls, screams, someone cries for help, everybody shows up, and then they're there for like 24 hours with all their energy, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's not helpful. I need help for the next 3 months. So space it out, take your time, decide when you have time, and, let's do it in a pace that is sustainable
Correct.
rather than. And also, just because the immediacy of the problem has passed, don't forget about it. A
Yes.
lot of times people cry for help, the people will come to help, and then as soon as things start to get slightly better, everybody goes back to their regular life, and even the person stops taking it as sincerely as they
Yeah.
need to.
Yes.
And then it happens again, and then it happens again, and then you wonder why it keeps happening, and then you get tired of the fact that it keeps happening and nothing's getting better, and you feel hopeless and you feel like nothing's changing, and it just then becomes this vicious cycle.
True. True.
So I think it's very important to expand your support, and everybody doesn't have to know your whole story, and everybody in your support circle doesn't have to know the
The
whole
entire.
sad
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
They can just be your dance friend. They can just be your coffee friend. They don't even have to know that you're going through a mental illness. They can just be someone you regularly go and try out a new cafe in Bombay with, because every 3 weeks there's a new cafe.
Absolutely.
Right? So they can
Yeah.
be fulfilling different needs and supporting you in different manners.
Absolutely. I definitely resonate with that, Ira, because one thing that I have also realized, being a woman and you're growing, okay, not only older with your age and experience, sometimes we just miss out, because we're also busy with our own life. A friend who's there and may be going through some conditions, some issues in life, may not say very overtly or openly to you that he or she needs help, but sometimes there are cues that we can pick up and just call them up, or just kind of drop by and say, hey, I'm around. So let's step out, let's sit and talk, or maybe go out for a coffee. I think that companionship, beyond probably what you're expecting from your parents, your husband, wife, or maybe another circle, is very crucial to your mental health. I believe so. And I think now that you're telling me about it, I feel that this is something that I should push myself to do more often, that call up and figure out if maybe some of my friends may just need that little bit of support, and a pep chat, or a talk or something
Or
like that.
nothing. Just call your friends to hang out.
Yes, you're right.
Why do you have to call them if they're having a bad day? Call them because they're having a good day.
Yeah, maybe we should do that more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, hang out. Okay, great. So, Ira, my next question is, and I'm going to go back to your, part of where you've been sharing your story, your experiences. You've inspired many to confront their own mental health challenges. In one of the episode where you and your father, both of you, were talking about that healing journey of a father and daughter, I did see your father talking about that space where you encouraged him to take up that journey, and also face the mental health part as well. So how do you feel that this has contributed to a broader ladder of awareness and change? I mean, I'm sure people have come to you and have told you about it, but they say that something begins at home, the charity begins at home, and you've started at a very core level. So I would like to know from you.
I think I have gotten many, many sweet messages and people telling me that, it's made them feel less alone. It's made them feel like they can talk to someone, and it may not necessarily have worked out for them, but they've tried at least to talk to someone. I remember that I did an interview once, and similar question about my privilege. I had mentioned that being my dad's daughter means that some people might trust me more.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I think we got a registration for the clinic, and the person in the comments had left a comment saying that you're right. Just because you're Ira Khan's daughter, I needed to go for therapy, and I've needed to go for therapy for the past 12 years, and I haven't. But now, since you said it, I'm going to try it. And I was like, oh my God, so much pressure. I hope you find a good therapist.
Okay.
But I guess.
But that's sweet.
Yeah,
That is really
but
sweet,
it has affected people, has impacted people. My dad's gone for therapy now, and he's finding it helpful. And I think the fact that my dad went on the internet and said, I find therapy very helpful and
Yes,
I highly
he did.
recommend it.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I should have done that on the first day. All my awareness spreading would have been done in one 30-second video of him admitting that he goes for therapy, and it's helped him.
Yeah.
But I struggle with this because it's a little bit sad that that I don't know whether it's sad. It's just a bit something that people have to hear it from a celebrity or just someone else going through it to be able to take it seriously. I wish there was another way for them to also see that it's important. But that was also why I started sharing, because I felt like if stigma is the problem, and if no one talking about it is the problem, I'm not afraid to talk about it. What was scary for me was
Correct.
to deal with it and to work on it. And so the talking about it part is easy for me. I'm happy to share and tell you all the bizarre thoughts in my head and everything, so that you know that you're not alone, and that it's hard and painful and annoying and scary, but it's not shameful. And
Yeah.
I did shame myself, so I know that you will also shame yourself. So it's okay to shame yourself,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that'll also happen. But I that's why I started sharing, because I realized that if that's something that's helpful, then that is something that is relatively easy for me to do, and so
In
happy to
fact,
do.
I would say that, more than, I wouldn't use the word shaming yourself, but I think you owned your story. And when you own your story and you talk about it, it becomes a very powerful narrative of motivation and inspiration to people who may not have had gathered that courage, to deal with, that specific concern of mental health or depression. But when they hear somebody like you talking about it, or I would say celebrity who they look up to, they know that yes, this is something that can happen to anyone. So I will always tell you that please continue sharing your stories with the world with your powerful narration, because I think it can inspire so many people and their
Thank you.
lives. So Ira, I now want to know that, how did creating the Agatsu Foundation become a ladder for you? Because it's doing so much of work in the mental health space. So what inspired you to start the community center?
So I think, like I said, it. I was frustrated that there was so much out there that people knew that was not reaching the lay people and the regular people, and all of it was in these big words that nobody understood, and nobody would give you a straight answer. And that's because there sometimes isn't a straight answer, but there is a slightly simpler answer to understand. And I felt like there are, in 2017 there were 3,000 psychologists in India. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay.
In the whole country
Okay.
there were
So
3,000.
definitely much.
So
Yeah.
uh, I understand if the doctor doesn't have a lot of time to explain everything to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I realized that I have the time to try and bridge the gap between the professional and the regular people who are not professionals. And it's something that we collectively have to work on. Yes, it is your responsibility as the patient to ask questions and know your rights and all of those things. But sometimes when you're really vulnerable and scared, it doesn't cross your mind to ask those questions because you're too busy dealing with the thoughts in your own head. And so I felt like my frustration with the fact that it could be better, which now looking back was actually hope that it could be better, is what led me to start Agatsu.
Agatsu Foundation.
It was very up and down, I have to say, because I was still in my I had multiple depressive episodes in shorter time periods during the first 2 years of Agatsu, which really affected the company because I kept finding gaps and not being able to fill them because I was trying to fill too many too quickly. Wasn't sure whether it would actually have any significant impact because I must have significant impact tomorrow because I
Yeah.
have all the resources in the world.
True. True.
So it was just a really silly situation to be in. I was diving nose first with my self confidence going into the ground because I did not know what it's like to start a company. And I didn't think I would ever start a company. I have never taken a business class, never taken a finance class, do not understand any of these things. Swore to myself I would never start a company, so I was really not prepared. Had no idea that it takes the first 1,000 days for your company to come out of infancy. Somebody should have told me. I would have done this a different way. I would have done
Okay.
the same thing in a
Yeah.
different way.
Okay.
But anyway, it went through lots of ups and downs. And I think the community center came about as okay, fine. We know one basic thing, that people need to get out of their houses and meet new people and connect. So we will start a community center and then we will see. We will take it from there. And that's essentially what we've done because we get feedback from the community in terms of what they want. Sometimes they're activities that we thought would stop doing well in a little while, but they're doing really well, and we were just like, oh, okay. And then we take suggestions from people who come. We try and do as much as we can to fulfill the needs that are being brought up to us. And then we started a therapy clinic, and now we're just about starting a content vertical because Agatsu is essentially in person in Bombay, and that's how I want it to be, because I think it's very important to be offline and to step out and move and come and connect. But there is also information that no matter where you are, even if you can't come to Agatsu, I really think that you have the right to have access to. And so we're also starting a content vertical. And I'm starting my own podcast.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's where we're at.
That's awesome. So, Ira, what and how do you think Agatsu Foundation has been impacting, let's say, the healing process, especially where women are concerned? What are those initiatives that communities like Agatsu Foundation has been doing that you see as creating a difference in the healing process? And my question is tentatively, where I come back to the women part, if you can please share that with us.
Um, yeah, so I mean, like I told you, Agatsu is open for anybody, even if you don't have a mental illness. So we don't ask you whether you have a mental illness. The idea is to be preventative. And I can tell you some stories of women who have come and, you know, stayed, I guess. So we have a new mom support group.
Yeah.
Where there's the facilitator. All our facilitators are people with lived experience. So she is someone who has lived through postpartum depression, and she shared this story publicly. So I think it's okay for me to say. She went through a miscarriage herself, and so this was very close to her heart, and she wanted to be able to do this. And we realized that a lot of women feel ashamed to come
Yes.
and talk about PPD or those sorts of things. So no one has come. We have had the new moms peer support for 8 months. It has happened once.
Okay.
Nobody wants to admit that they are struggling with PPD and come for it. And also, new moms struggle to come out of the house because they have children.
Yeah.
So we also do, like, you can bring your kids, and they'll be right there in the next room. But it takes time for people to have to admit that they're struggling with being a new mom, because it
Yeah.
can be so shameful to think that you have problems about being
A
a
mother.
mother. How can any of it be a problem? So we do deal with those sorts of things. We had Let's Talk, which is a interview sort of thing where we have people who have lived through a particular experience come to the center and share their story. So we've done it for addiction, we've done it for bipolar disorder, various different situations. We did it for infant loss and miscarriage and PPD, and nobody wants to come because it's so stigmatized to talk about these things, to even sit there and be considered as someone who may, want to hear about this, because then people might think that you might have had it or whatever. Um, so that, so those are the unhappy things. But now our mom's peer support has picked up in the past 2 sessions, just when the facilitator is taking leave for her pregnancy.
Oh my God, that's a coincidence, huh? Okay.
So we were like, "Arey." Anyway, we've had women who've come and said, they felt stuck in their homes and caged, and now they feel free where they can come and they can just take an hour to themselves. and it's a place where they don't get judged and they can do not do whatever they want, really. So that's always nice to see. And we started, we've only grown organically. So we started when there were just a few people, so we knew everyone.
Yeah.
Like, we would chat with everybody who came to the center, and they would talk to us and tell us about their lives. And so you really got to know them and what they were going through, and not necessarily going through in a bad way, just what was going on in their
Yeah,
lives.
correct.
And we had a lot of senior citizens come, which we did not anticipate or expect, and a lot of them were women. And they changed their sleep time. Can you believe it? They changed the afternoon nap ka timing to come to Agatsu. I was
Agatsu.
like,
Okay.
wow, I would not change my afternoon nap time for something. I would find something to adjust for my afternoon nap. So I think those are the ways in which we've really been able to tell that it matters to someone, that they've decided that whatever else they will do, they will come to Agatsu for this
Agatsu.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And they've become regulars, and you can you can see a change in their comfort levels to talk to someone. And when they, if they were shy in the beginning, and now it's easier for them to make new friends.
True, true.
In classes, you see them perform at open mic. Yeah, it's fun.
And Ira, very interestingly, now that we did mention about senior citizens, especially women who have come to Agatsu Foundation to seek help, I think their their situation, the new mothers, is because their kids have probably
Gone
flown
away.
the nest, they're away, there's a cognitive decline. Some of them may also be going through severe health issues, which I think they find difficult to cope with, because that kind of causes some stress and mental health issues, because they probably find themselves coping with it all by
All alone.
all on their own. I think this is something that has happened in my own life, because I've seen my mother going through it, and because we were younger, there were not a lot of consciousness about mental health of senior citizens, or
It's getting very
women
bad.
who are probably in their 60s, 50s, 60s, and they develop mental health issues because of that loneliness, because of not having that enough support system. I think it's great work that Agatsu Foundation is doing on that area.
We didn't, genuinely, we didn't like pitch, or we didn't try and target senior citizens. It just happened.
Yeah.
And then we decided we had to do 1 hour of senior hour every single day, because there were so many of them. So we have 2 senior hour physicals where a physiotherapist will come and do some mobility and strengthening. Then there's one cognitive, because like you said, there is
Yeah,
a cognitive
cognitive decline.
And then there's one social and one creative. And all our activities are open to senior citizens, but we decided to focus on senior citizens specifically. There are so many people who are lonely, who then start to develop like Alzheimer's and
Yes.
dementia, and
Yes.
it's very hard for caregivers to take care of them, because there's not much you can do about it after it's progressed to a certain space. So yeah, I think it's quite complicated. And I mean, okay, there are instances and things that I can tell you about women, if you'd like to know, in terms of a more the kinds of things that women struggle with and bring up in say therapy and stuff like that. But I don't know if you want to go into that depth of things. For example, you can cut this out later if you want. For example, therapy is the kind of place where you can come and admit things that you otherwise can't say to someone else or can't say anywhere else, right? And as a mother, if you are if you're a stay-at-home mom and your partner goes to work and there's a lot of stuff going on, and you have a child who has a learning disability or something like that, you're not necessarily equipped to deal with this child, because no one's taught you. You don't have a lot of support from your family.
Yeah.
It is natural to feel angry towards this child, or not be able to handle it. And then sometimes you might shout at them, or you might slap them, and then you start feeling like a really horrible mother.
Guilty about it, yes.
And there's not a lot of room as to where you can have this conversation and where you can navigate it. And you and so one of those places is therapy, because the second you admit it to someone, they're now shaming you for it. Whereas the way I see it is, if I'm telling you about it, I'm like, I need help with this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
I know that I should not be slapping my son. And I know that it is when I feel completely lost and helpless and don't know what to do, and I'm pushed to the point of overwhelm where I just cannot handle this situation. And I know it's not the thing that I should be doing, but I need help to figure out what I can be doing instead of this.
True.
Or how I can get support for these things. So the thing I mentioned right in the beginning about how I don't necessarily, on a macro level, know male, female, woman, not woman, or all of those various intersectionalities, but it is very important to be aware of the various intersectionalities that you fall into, because that in your specific case will affect everything that you're going through, right? So in that sense, yes, it is very important to understand the difference between being male and female, and the context of being female and a woman in India. Because for a woman in India, maybe taking a cab at 10 p.m. is not a luxury but a necessity.
Absolutely.
But I make less money than my male counterpart, or whatever it is, right? And I think that's what's missing in the male female conversation, the things that you don't realize haven't, like we talk about it all the time, but I don't think we give I don't think we talk about the important things, or we give people an idea of how it really affects you. If I'm on a film set and I'm a woman, and and I'm not the top star of the production, and I need to go to the loo, there is no loo. And so sometimes on set you're somewhere in the middle of nowhere and there's no loo. So then I have to hold my pee for the whole day, because I don't want to use that loo because it's not hygienic. And so there are lots of the, and men can stand and pee. It smells bad, but it's still doable. And so, there are many of these little things. Apparently, it's you'll go to jail in Mauritius or something if you're LGBTQI plus. And so if I can't go on a honeymoon to Mauritius if I'm lesbian, because if I go on a candlelight dinner with my girlfriend on the beach, I'll be put in jail.
Okay.
I did not think that that is something someone has to even consider. Who knew that I would have to think about whether I can book a candlelight honeymoon dinner with my partner or not? And it is the difference between going to jail and not going to jail.
Yes, absolutely. So Ira, we are getting a little now, deeper into certain topics. I have something very, something's that they've been in my mind for a very long time. Considering there's been a spate of these discussions that have been happening in the corporate world, where senior people, senior leaders, I don't want to name them, but talking about 90 hours, work week, or coming to office on Sundays and working, or 70 hours, or expressing unhappiness over the fact that we don't know, why government has made it like 5 days instead of, 6 days. So I think there is a issue with employers understanding that workforce, people, men and women, have a right to disconnect after a certain point of time. Now, I think there is a grave problem, if these things start servicing where you make people, your workforce, go beyond the normal shifts and work for 90 hours and 70 hours, because it will affect mental health to a very large extent. I think celebrities like Deepika Padukone has also, kind of protested or said about it, that no idea why senior leaders or people in senior positions can even talk about this. Now I want to know from you, because you have mentioned that you see women more coming to Agatsu foundations for seeking help, or for that healing part of it. Have you come across, or rather, do you think that if 90 hours or a 70 hours work week is introduced for our workforce, what could be the impact? What do you think would be the impact on mental health? I completely feel it's a violation of employee rights, but yeah, I would like to hear
So
from you.
I I think that so I did an episode with cognitive the neuroscientist, and we were talking about this work-life balance,
Yes.
and he said something very interesting. He said that the rest is rest, which means that if I'm feeling rested, it doesn't, whatever makes me feel rested makes me feel rested. Whatever makes me feel at work makes me feel at work. Which is to say that I'm at my job, I'm working, and then I scroll on Instagram. My parasympathetic nervous system is not being activated, which means I'm not resting. Even though I'm taking a break from work, I'm not
Resting.
resting. Now, I think in general, in life, people need to find a balance. People need to find their balance. Now, the problem in capitalism and the corporate world in general is that you need to have some sort of norm, right? Over the years, people have decided that it is normal for someone to work for 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. Productivity and efficiency happens in that much time. For some people, it may be that they actually are quite unproductive when you ask them to work for 8 hours straight, and they're more productive when you ask them to work for 2 hours and then take 2 hours break and then work 2 hours. That's their best efficiency. But we cannot account for every individual person's best efficiency, because we need to work as a team, as a system, for a company to function in a certain way. So we've tried to find this middle ground, right? Where most people can function to what is most efficient, hopefully, is I'm assuming the idea, which is already not really working, because people are still burning out, even with 5 day
Yeah, they
work
do.
weeks
Yes, they
with
do.
8 hours a
Yes.
day. People are still burning out. Now, I feel like this is a little complicated, because just because on contract it says that you're working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, it doesn't mean you're working 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. You might be working overtime
Yeah,
very
of
often.
course.
You might be so stressed about your work that even though you are going home and you are technically no longer at work anymore, you are not switched off.
You're right.
So my employer might be giving me 5 days a week, 8 hours of work, but that doesn't mean I've come home and switched off.
Yeah.
My employer can give me a 2 day week with 8 hours, and I may not come home and switch off, and my mental health will still be affected. I think rather than deciding whether it needs to be 5 days a week or 6 days a week or 90-hour weeks or 80 hour, I mean, my thing is, what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to achieve efficiency and you're trying to achieve productivity, then you need to understand your workforce and figure out what is most practical and doable for the company and your workforce to get the goal that you want. If you're worried about mental health, then what you need to consider is that employees spend a lot of time at work, and so work being a nurturing, fulfilling place is going to affect their mental well-being a lot. That is going to in turn affect their productivity and ability to work at your workplace, which will then affect your bottom line.
True.
And so, and if they have a mental illness, they're not going to tell you they have a mental illness. But that doesn't mean you don't have people in your company working who have a mental illness. They've just not disclosed it to you because they're afraid of what you'll say and do.
Yeah.
So, having policies for it is only going to be helpful to you to meet your bottom line.
Yes.
Because otherwise, people with mental illnesses will come and work in your company. You just won't know that they have a mental illness. So then you're not being able to be helpful to them, and they're not being able to be helpful to you. There are things that count as reasonable accommodation, which you can do, give the employees, that will make them be as productive as you want them to be, and them also be able to flourish in your workspace. So Asha Pillai is the CFO of Shell, I think, and she has bipolar disorder. And she's found a way to communicate with her team and her seniors as to how she can be, she's an asset. It's not a charity. They're not giving her a job because they want to feel good about themselves to hire someone with bipolar disorder. She's an asset to the company. She
True.
has bipolar disorder. She works on yearly goals instead of quarterly goals because those she can hit, or whatever it is, right? So you discuss with your employer in terms of what is reasonable accommodation for you. And then in general, when you're looking at, and that's when you figure out, does this person need a 6-day work week or a 2-day work week? What is feasible for your company to still function? You cannot give everyone their own choice. The company will fall apart. But what is feasible for you as a company to give your employees?
True.
So that you still get your work done and they still feel nourished and nurtured and are able to do. Because if they enjoy what they're doing, they're going to do it with more joy and passion and
True.
interest, and then
Yes.
everybody is just going to do better. So I don't
Absolutely.
understand.
Absolutely.
And so I think that this whole conversation of what your policy needs to be, whether it is mental health days off, whether it is sick leave, whether it is how many hours, whether I get work from home, don't get work from home. So at Agatsu, we have endless sick leave. There's no days of sick leave. How do you know how many days you're going to fall sick for? You don't.
Yes.
You're just going to fall sick. So someone came to me and said, but how do you know whether people are misusing it? So I said, if someone keeps falling sick, I'm going to check on them and be like, hey, you've been falling sick a lot. Is everything okay? If I don't notice that they're falling sick because their work is going on completely fine, I should still notice because they've called in sick leave, so I should be checking on them if I'm a thoughtful employee. But if their work is going the way the work needs to go, then I don't need you to come to work. I don't need you to sit in that chair. I need my work to happen.
Correct.
If I've thought through the job description properly and I've hired you properly, then I probably needed you to sit there to get the work done. If I didn't need you to sit there to get the work done, I wrote the job description badly and I framed this whole thing badly. Because you're being able to get the work done in 3 days instead of 5, I've given you less work to do. So I should give you more work to do if that's what I want from you. So I don't need to put a cap on sick leave. And if you keep falling sick and making excuses about it, then I'm going to be like, hey, work's not getting done. You're falling sick very often. You should go to get better health checkup done. And if you continuously don't do that, then I'm going to be like, okay, then I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to let you go. It is never going to be a fight between sick leaves. Because I'm going to have a conversation with you, and either you're going to be lying to me, in which case I'll be like, okay, well, this is not working out. Sorry, goodbye. Or I'll find out that either I've given you less work, I've given you too much work, you're falling sick, you're not falling sick. It's literally, there is no argument to be had.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think if that's how we saw work policies, then we would understand women better, we would understand where they can contribute better, where we can use them as ladders, and just, take it that way rather than and when people say these things like have a 90-hour work week or whatever it is, I'd like to just understand what goal is that serving, and say this is your goal and your answer to that goal is a 90-hour work week. Explain to me how that is getting to your goal. And if you can, then sure, but I don't see how you can, because as of now, I feel like there are too many other things also happening that are causing people to burn out. Since COVID, lots of more people are burning out. Social media and digital world is wrecking people's lives and mental health. People are not being able to turn off anyway. So I don't see how increasing work hours is going to make people be more functional. They're not being functional in the already existing work hours. So depending on what your end goal is, I don't know whether this is the best way to reach your end goal.
Absolutely. I think, Ira, you bring forward some very critical, points that we need to reflect. And thank you for, answering that from, I think, from the core of your heart, because I know that you definitely believe, that you need to figure out that what is important for the mental health at workspace as well today, instead of just, making statements like a 90 hours or a 70 hours. And I definitely felt that you gave a very, a lot more insights into how one can tackle that bit, and do a 1+1.
And I also mean, I'm not saying do it because it'll make you a good person. I get it. You have to run a company.
Yes.
And you have to make
Yes.
money and you have to do what you have to do. So do that. But my argument is also that taking care of your employees' mental health will make your company do well. Like the numbers will add up. So look at that also.
And work-life balance is no more, nice to have. It is a must-have in today's world, which I feel that most employers would have to give it a thought. And when we talk about women workforce, where we are looking at bringing women more towards the workforce front and helping them to climb up the ladders, it is really important to understand that women are the caregivers in most of the families and most of the households. So if you can't understand that dilemma and give them something which is reformative and have policies which are pro women, I don't think we are anyways going to be contributing to the GDP of the country, because we are still at 45% of the country's GDP, the women workforce. So I think it's a deep question, but thank you for answering that. And I'm now going to touch the last question of the ladder segment, Ira, which is, what would you tell someone who feels stuck at the bottom of the ladder, unable to rise because of the mental health snakes that they face? One sentence from you, which could be a motivation.
Take your mental health sincerely, not seriously, and reach out. Connection is what will save you when nothing else will.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that fantastic answer. I'm sure the audience listened to it. And I really like the fact that you have told us to take our mental health sincerely, because sincerity is more important than, just taking it seriously. Well, okay. Thank you so much. And we'll now move on to the most interesting phase of the segment. I think you will enjoy playing it. It is the snakes and ladder game. Okay. Are you ready for that, Ira?
I hated this game when I was growing up, but okay.
Okay, let's see how many snakes and how many ladders you're able to tackle in this game.
Sure.
So, Ira, here we are to play the snakes and ladders round. Are you feeling excited?
Yes.
Yes.
I like board games, so if I lose, I'll be very upset.
Okay, let's hope that you don't. But even if, let's see, you need help, I'm going to be your ladder today. All right. So, Ira, we want you to start rolling the dice, and let's hope that you get to navigate and don't fall in the snake's mouth. So, if you fall in the snake's mouth, we're going to ask you a question, okay, which definitely going to be a little snake-like, but you have to answer it in one word or, very short answer. And the ladder one will be the ladder questions for you, okay?
Cool.
Okay, let's start playing. All right, that's one.
I got a snake.
Okay, no problem. But my question to you is, and this is going to be one word, snakes or ladder. You have to name either snakes or ladder. Mental health discussions in families.
Ladder.
Social media for self-expression.
Ooh, snake.
Privilege.
Both, yeah.
Snakes and ladder?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Work-life balance.
So I'm confused, sorry. Now, good work-life balance or bad work-life balance?
Let's consider good work-life balance.
Then ladder only, no?
Okay, all right. Yes, no one wants a bad work-life balance here. Okay, move on. Three.
1, 2, 3.
You get a ladder. Wow, this girl's got a ladder now. Okay, if you had to name a ladder in your life, what or who would it be? I think I know the answer, but I'll still ask you.
Popeye.
Okay, I'm sure he's listening to you. Okay, next, please. That's another one. Ira is taking it very slow and steady.
Sincerity.
So, yes. What's the most empowering thing you have done for your mental health?
Oh, Sleep on time.
Okay, that's your answer. Gosh, let's move on. One again.
I got a snake.
Oh, yeah, so you go back to seven, but fair enough. My question to you is one thing caregivers should never say to someone battling mental health issues.
Get over it.
Okay, point. Yes, that's a five. Let's see, Kyra, where you go. Oh no, oh no. Okay. We'll just give you one really nice question here. Describe Agatsu Foundation in 3 words.
Communication, self awareness, resilience.
Wow, wonderful. Now
So
let's.
lucky our pillars are 3.
Okay, that's great. Let's now see where the dice takes you. Okay, good. One word that describes your mental health journey so far.
Long.
Long, right?
Insightful.
Insightful. I think that's a nice one. And please play carefully so that you don't get into the same, section again. 2. Wow, you've got a ladder. Wonderful. If you could personify depression, okay, what would it look or act like?
Ayyo.
Like for me, it's like a Dementor from Harry Potter.
That way. It's like a. Okay, now this is gonna. I don't like
One
the
minute.
sun.
Okay.
Because it drains me of energy. I feel every time I walk in the sun, I feel like I'm gonna faint because I'm always dehydrated and I don't drink enough water. But I also know that the sun is happy mental health. So let's call it a black sun.
Okay.
So it's like a black cloud hovering thing, but it's constantly sucking energy from you.
Okay.
That's how I
okay.
see it.
All right. This definitely looks and sounds different, but we'll take that. Let's move on. 6, that's for you. Wow. All right. Okay. We'll take it slow. Ira, you're going to make it, I'm sure. If you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be?
My God. Popeye.
Popeye, okay. He's listening again. But
I
you
want
get to
his
spend the
abs.
day with him.
But I want to live his life. I want his abs and his biceps.
Okay, all right. Well, that was quite innovative. Let's move on. 3. Okay. Your favorite comfort activity when you're feeling down?
I want to be Jeff Bezos. No, I want to be Elon Musk for one day because he has $300 billion or
So you-
something like that. I will spend it. And
So you changed the first answer,
I've
right?
changed my first answer. I don't
Okay.
want to be Popeye. I want to be Elon Musk. He has $300 million. I will use it to make people take mental health seriously.
Wow. Now that's a big round of applause for Ira. Wow. Elon Musk, listen, Ira is coming for you.
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Let's move on.
I'm too lazy to travel from Bandra to someplace.
3.
3.
Again, a ladder for
This
you.
ladder is a cheater because it only goes one up, so it's hardly a ladder.
It's all right. Let's play the game in
Sorry.
the true spirits. But my question to you again is your favorite comfort activity when you're feeling down?
Hugging Popeye.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
Sorry, is another one?
It's a 6 again for you. Oh, you come here and there. Ira is getting caught into the vicious cycle of falling into the snake's mouth. Ira, you have to play better and with more guts. So,
No, it's okay. I can just keep playing.
Okay, all right. So my question
There's
to
no
you,
need to be better.
my question to you is, it's all right. You just play with your pace. If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would they be? Yourself and not Popeye.
Describe myself in 3 words. Enthusiastic.
Come on, it's about you.
Yeah, you try. It's hard.
Enthusiastic, insightful,
Sure, I'm insightful. Yes.
and the last one, the third one, visionary.
No.
No, you don't see yourself as what?
Genuine.
Genuine. Okay, yeah, I think that's better when it comes to you. Okay, let's move. 5, come on. Okay, audience, Ira is caught in a bit of snaky cycle. But again, my question to you is, Ira, if you could eliminate one snake from your life, what would it be?
My self-sabotage. I only self sabotage myself all the time.
So that self-sabotaging has to be obliterated.
That's kind of like very meta or whatever. So I think my snake that I want to remove right now is that my inability to work out is the snake that I want to get rid of. Because I think if I go back to being able to work out, my self confidence will skyrocket, and I will take over the world.
Wow, that was very honest and genuine. Those of you who have been lazing and not working out, I think that's a cue from, Ira.
I have a block against it, so it's not so much about me feeling lazy about it. It's, I don't know why I'm not being able to get myself to do it. I think it's part self sabotage, but this year we will work on it.
Of course. Good one. All right. Two. There you get a ladder. If you could give everyone a ladder to climb, what would it be?
Sleep well.
Okay. We
Fix
certainly.
everybody's sleep cycle.
Yeah. I think it's a very important, I think tip for everyone because we don't sleep well enough. Great. Let's move on to the next round. Yes.
I already know where they are.
Oh my God. Okay.
It's fine. There's nothing wrong in losing.
Do you want me to
games.
play some of the rounds for you? Okay. The one person you call when you need advice.
The one person I call when I need advice, personally or professionally?
Anything. It's up to you. Whenever you need advice. It could be life advice, professional advice. I think personal. Let's put it that way.
Popeye.
Popeye? Okay. Oh my God. He's becoming the favorite
I
now.
call my aunt, I call my mom, and I call Popeye. Is who I call when I need life advice.
All right. Wow, that's nice.
And my uncle.
But I can clearly see the favorite in all your questions. Yeah. Okay. Let's get on with this. Two. Another. Okay. If your dog could talk, what's the first thing they would complain about? Yeah, I know that's a weird question, but
If my dog could talk, what is the first thing they would complain? That I don't play catch with him enough.
really? Okay. All right. Okay. Three. All right. Again, Ira is on a ladder point. Ira, what's the weirdest piece of advice someone ever gave you?
Weirdest piece of advice someone ever gave me. About mental health or life?
Just about life. Yeah.
I have no idea. No one has given me weird advice. This is so hard. I did one of those. No, that's not advice. I don't know. Nobody's given me weird advice.
So no weird advice.
No one's given me weird advice.
All right. So we probably would like to then omit that and let's play. Okay, we're in safe space. Good one. A habit or ritual you swear by to keep your mental health in check.
People are going to sound like I'm a sleep advocate. So I'm not going to say sleep, but the real answer is sleep. My next real answer is talking to Popeye.
Okay.
Connecting, basically. Connection is something I swear by. I think find a routine, because what happens a lot with mental health is there's uncertainty, which causes fear, which causes stuckness. And so if you just find a way to feel certain about whatever little things you can feel certain about, like I will use this pen, and that's something I have control of. I have control over the fact that I will always use a black Lexi pen, and that's where I can find control in my life. So if you make a routine, then you are increasing the amount of certainty in your life, and that can really, really help your mental state of being, because it reduces your anxiety.
Great. Thank you. That was very, very insightful, Ira. And I hope now you get to the point where you can move your queen to the final destination. So 4. Let's go for 4. Come on, Ira.
Or 1 or 2.
Let's target, You actually have a 4, and Ira is right there at the top. Oh my God, that's phenomenal. Okay, this girl is a sure shot winner.
Told you, good at board games.
Yeah, she's slow and steady, but she's won it. And Ira, a book or a movie or experience that became a game changing ladder in your life?
Okay, book or movie or?
Or, we are talking about a experience.
Book, movie experience that became a life change.
Something, a book that you read or a movie that you watched, some experience in your life, it became a ladder for you. Game changing ladder.
You know, I don't like those. I feel like everybody's always looking for one big ladder. And they aren't always there. Most of the time, they're not there. They're small ladders that build up and become big ladders.
Okay.
So, like, I want to say Popeye, and you're going to be like, ugh. And it's not that he did one thing, it's that over the course of the past 4 years, slowly, he has been a game changing ladder. Me learning to connect with my family better and connect with my friends better was not a one time thing. And I'm still working on it. And it's been a game changing ladder. But it's all little. There are
Small
no big
steps,
ladders in
yeah.
your life, guys.
Correct.
Stop waiting for one big ladder.
Okay, point taken.
That's my answer.
Great. So that was the Snakes and Ladder game segment. Ira, I hope you enjoyed playing
did.
this. Okay, wonderful. We should practice a little bit more so that next time you
Game of
evade
luck.
all
There's
of them.
Practice here.
All right, but I hope that the conversation that we had today, and you were so kind enough to spend time with us in the studio. The audience, I'm sure there's so much more that you can take away from this episode. Thank you, Ira, for giving us your time. We are very, very grateful. And there's a small token of gift from the team of Snakes and Ladder, which I would like to present to you.
I only come for podcasts because they give me gifts.
This is something that we would like to present to you as a women elevator, and as an inspiration in the mental health space for not only women but for people across. So please accept this, and let's hope that you keep on inspiring us with many more powerful narratives on mental health. So Ira, if you could leave one message for women navigating their own snakes and ladders of emotional health, what would it be?
Genuinely, what I said, take your mental health sincerely, take your journey sincerely and not seriously, because when we're emotionally provoked by something, or energized, or whatever, when we get that gust of let's do this, we sometimes try and take steps that are bigger than we need to. I would say conserve energy for the next day instead of trying to get to a further step today. Is always tomorrow, and it's just a more sustainable way, and you'll enjoy it more because you'll be present more, you'll make the most of what is happening more, because that won't come again. So enjoy the birthday party and the cup of coffee and the whatever. Take the steps sincerely, and make sure you're enjoying it on the way, because otherwise, why are you taking the steps in the first place? So yeah.
Thank you. That was really, really very powerful, Ira, and very beautifully penned down. Thank you so much.